Welcome to Forest Not Chat, where we talk about individual endeavour in Western Australia, what it takes, what it means, and how you do it. I'm your host, Paul Vandermeer, and in today's episode, I'm talking with Dianna Evans about being a podcaster. Dianna started her first podcast in 2018 and put out around 38 episodes before life took over. Then, in 2024, Dianna restarted her podcast and is continuing with it today. Welcome to Forest Dot Chat, Dianna.
Thank you, Paul. I'm really glad that you invited me to come onto the show.
Great to have you here, Dianna. Dianna, podcasting is a very broad field. There's all sorts of podcasts. What type of podcasting are you doing?
See, my podcast doesn't fit into a particular niche, but it is an interview series for authors, artists, and creatives to talk about their creative process. Mine is a long form podcast like yours. The first half of the interview is about mindfulness, and then the second half of the interview is about world building. Each guest gets 2 episodes, and we have segments within each show. We start the first show with mindfulness questions, then we talk about a Buffy night segment, and that's where we discuss something that's influenced their creative prospects throughout the years. Normally it's a TV show or a book they've read or games that they've played, something along those lines. And in the world building episode, we have a question and answer section. I have a community that I've built over the years called the Finding Elara podcast group. I know, original, but we've got this group of people who are supporters of the show, and I give them the bio of the guest and they send through any questions that they may have before I do the interview.
So you've got a two-part podcast. Every time you do a recording, you have two parts to it. Is that how it works?
Yeah, the recordings normally take about 90 minutes, and then I split it into 2 shows.
So you've got guests all the time. How do you go about finding your guests?
To start with, I'm a member of a few different writing groups. So Romance Writers Australia, Australian Fairy Tale Society, Midland Writers Group, Vic Park Writers Group. I like to get out and socialise every now and then. Normally it's just the online meetings that I can attend because I'm in the goldfields. But to start with, it was people within those circles that I interviewed. And then since I've done a few episodes, I've extended my reach and I've had people starting to contact me about coming onto the show.
How many people are in those groups? Like, are they groups of tens or groups of hundreds?
Romance Writers Australia is massive. I've got no idea how many members there are, but it's Australia-wide and it's a really huge community, very supportive and encouraging. I mean, they've been put into their little corner of RWA. The Romance Writers of Australia was started by Joe Henwood, and I joined up with them in 2018. But I don't know how many members they have now. They have an annual conference though, so it's pretty big. It's not like a tiny 5 people only group or anything like that.
So you've got plenty of people that you can interview, provided they're willing to do it, of course.
I am pretty immersed in the spec fiction area of writing, looking for people who sci-fi, fantasy, and just creatives in general. I know for the next season I've already interviewed a producer and I've got a songstress that's coming on to do an interview. I'm really excited about that.
It's really good to find people who, you find very interesting to talk to. I find that a lot with this podcast, that everyone has their own piece of a story of life, if you know what I mean. They really bring their own element to it, don't they?
Oh, definitely. And with my mindfulness perspective, as being a creative or in the creative fields, it's challenging because it can be so lonely. So the way I see mindfulness is trying to stay into different aspects of your life that people may be uncomfortable with. Depending on who I'm talking to for the week, some people are saying that mindfulness goes out the window when they're in their creative phase, and then they need to focus on it a lot more when they're editing. And then other people, they embrace mindfulness every day to help find a deeper level of the creative senses. It's really fascinating. I've interviewed, I think, 22 different artists and creatives, and everybody has a different perspective of what mindfulness means to them.
So how did you come to be so interested in the mindfulness aspect?
I wanted to do something that will allow my listeners understand the real, book launches and celebrations. There's a lot more going behind the scenes that people just don't see. I've noticed now, I listen to a lot of podcasts. I think as a podcaster, you sort of have to listen to a lot of podcasts. And I'm thinking now it's definitely out there a lot more, the processes behind and how people create and where they find their ideas. But back in 2018, when I first started, you couldn't really find a lot of that information in the world. I think that's where I started with the mindfulness. And my mum is actually a life translator, so a bit of a spiritualist. And I grew up in that world, seeing the way people think like that and stopping and actually considering their actions before they do it. I think that has definitely impacted my decision to have a mindfulness segment on my podcast.
For the second part of the episodes that you do, they have a community questions component. How does that play out in the interviews?
Well, we have the world building interview segment, and then we go to the Q&A section, which we call linking to Elara. Elara is the world that I've created for my opus that will maybe never be finished, but this is my dream book that I'll eventually write. Linking to Elara is where we find a way to dig deeper onto some of the developmental aspects of story writing and craft. I ask the community, do you have any questions? This is the person I'm talking to. And there have been many occasions where I haven't been able to ask all of them on the show, but normally the guest will be welcomed within the Finding Elara podcast community on Facebook, and then they'll have like a Q&A on the page itself. So we expand on it a little bit more.
And that must be good for your audience reach as well, is it? Having that expansion onto Facebook and completing the questions there.
Yeah, I think it makes people feel a little bit more connected to the community.
Dianna, what does it take you to be a podcaster?
Well, Paul, I'm sure as you know, there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff. It's not just fun interviews and chucking it online and see how you go. To start with, there is obviously finding the guests that you wish to interview and making sure you've outlined the expectations for the guest and have a checklist for things that you need to do to make sure it runs successfully. There are multiple different platforms that are available online now to complete the interviews themselves. At the moment, I'm using Riverside. We're doing this interview today on Descript. I've also used Zoom for a lot of the interviews. But back in 2018, when I first started, we had to complete the interviews on Skype. They had to record, then save it and send it to me on Dropbox. And then I had to record separately on my side. And then I needed to put it together on Audacity. With Riverside, it's really easy. I just do the interview with them. I put that recording directly onto Audacity and I make my content editing. In that case, it's removing all the ums, the ahs, the breath sounds, and sometimes people repeat themselves, so we can cut that out. Once I've done all the content editing, I have a family friend who has started doing the audio editing for me. She has a program that's a little bit more advanced than my experience level. So she makes sure that all the sounds are the same, no one's too loud, no one's too quiet, and it all balances out in the end. I need to put together the show notes, and I use Libsyn for my podcast aggregate. I upload it onto Libsyn, fill out all the show notes, add all the pictures, and then it goes out into the world magically.
Amazing, isn't it? The technology behind the distribution is the RSS, so that's got a real name. RSS is just the shortened version of it, but it's a syndication type system. And yeah, you pop all the stuff up there and it gets just picked up by all of the other people who want to deliver it to an audience like Spotify and Apple and Amazon probably.
What are you using for your aggregate?
I'm using Podbean. So I upload to Podbean, I schedule the episodes to go out on a specific time and date, and then Podbean allows me to connect the feed, the RSS feed, and it goes out to all the different outlets. It's an amazing system. It sounds very simple, but I'm sure, like everything, it's more complicated under the cover.
And that's what Libsyn done, that Substack is actually doing a podcast service as part of the Substack membership. I'm not sure how much that would cost, but it'll be the same scenario, sending it out into the world. And what I like about the RSS feeds is if someone listens to a different podcatcher that hasn't caught your episode, then you can add the RSS feed to that catcher, and then you're opening up to a brand new audience. And the stats are really interesting when you're watching, because this is, well, I'm nearing the end. I've only got 2 episodes left for this season, and just watching the numbers grow as the season has been progressing. And ones that I think are really going to hit because they were so fantastic interviews. I really enjoyed the conversation, and they're the ones that are onto it, or they just haven't been exposed to it yet. So give them time. They've got the whole break until season 3 to finish listening to season 2.
So your podcast is seasonal. So you do, how many episodes are you doing in this season?
33 episodes this season. My goal when I started this season was to have 15 guests. 15 times 2 is 30. And then I have an intro show, and every time I do a treasure chest draw, we have like a summary episode just talking about some of the... I have a fast fire section within the show, and it's the same questions every mindfulness episode and every world building episode. So one of the questions are, would you rather be a table or a chair? That was one of the season 2 questions. It's just something a little fun. The questions for season 3 are very different. I think for season 3, one of the questions is, would you rather be attacked by a 10-foot bear or 10 1-foot bears? Something along those lines. I had my son come up with a question, so I'm like, okay, that'll be interesting to see what people are going to say about that.
You never know what you'll get back from that sort of question.
It's just outside the box thinking, clear their mind before they have the serious questions from the Q&A segment.
Yeah, that's a fascinating one. You've got a seasonal show and you've got pieces in between that actually help the podcast along.
I'm always running some form of giveaway. I just like giving things away, to be honest. And the guests have always been very generous. Normally they are creatives of some respect. So there'll be a book, or if they're not a creative, then we'll chuck in a voucher for the prize. So there's 10 prizes every treasure chest giveaway, and all people have to do to subscribe is listen to the show, because we say a special keyword in the episode, and they just subscribe, and they are added to our actual subscriber list so they don't ever miss a show. And the most recent giveaway is drawn on October 17th.
This episode will probably go out around the 29th of October, so you'll have to jump in for the season 3 questions and keywords on Dianna's podcast if you want to take part in that.
Everyone loves free things.
Yes, people do love free things.
And I'm very, very thankful to everyone who's helped me out with the show, because, you know, it's taking up their time coming in for an interview and obviously giving away the free things for the show. So I do gifts for everyone who's participated with me this year. This year, I can show you. Listeners won't see it, but I can show you. I have a box in the shape of a book. I have this special gift inside that I'm sending to everyone.
Yep.
And I've asked them to please share their unboxing with me. If they share, tag me in their unboxing, and then I can watch them open it up wherever they are. I think it'd be cute. And good marketing.
Yes, absolutely. That gives a nice connection between them having been on your episode and the excitement of opening the box as well. Unboxings are quite a big thing.
Over social media, yeah. I've definitely seen a lot of unboxings.
Dianna, is there anything about what it takes you to be a podcaster that you haven't covered yet?
There is on my side, there is the effort. It takes a lot of effort and it takes a lot of grit. So actually sticking at it and making sure you get the editing done and turn up for the interviews and try and be your best self throughout all of the conversations, it does take a lot of effort. And I think that's another thing that you really need to be thankful for, that people are so patient and understanding while they're getting their interviews. I'm sure you found the same thing doing continuous interviews and talking to people so much, it can be a little draining.
There definitely is a lot of effort in doing it. It's enjoyable effort too, but there's both sides in that before the episode, when you are looking at the episodes you've got booked, and sometimes there's a good number, a comfortable number, and other times there's not. So that really puts some stress on to go, okay, I've got a regular schedule, and you need to work out who's going to be on your schedule. So that sometimes can be quite stressful. And then after that, once you're actually doing the episodes, they are actually really good fun and interesting to actually hear what people have to say.
I like the interview section, and I love listening to the interview after I've done all my content editing. But going through and taking out the mouth noises and the ums and the ahs can be challenging. So I've really got to make sure I show up and get that work done to get to the next fun bit. It's sort of my reward for, showing up and doing the effort towards the content editing.
Yeah, the interview definitely is the best part. It can take 3 times as long as the episode to actually do the editing. In fact, I've spent longer on some episodes.
Especially if you get distracted in the conversation or if you forget to say something at the start. So you stay at the end, then you've got to chop it and cut it over, but you need to make sure it sounds like it's natural. So the product I'm putting together at the very end, I'm normally really pleased with because it makes logical sense in my head. Whereas when you're actually doing the interview, it's easy to have a side quest here and there.
Yes, getting that flow happening in the actual finished product, that's really important.
I agree.
We've had a look now at what it takes, Dianna, to be a podcaster. We'll have a break now, and after the break, we'll have a look at what it means. We've heard what it takes, Dianna, to be a podcaster. Now, let's have a look at what it means. Dianna, what does it mean to you, your family, or the community that you are able to be a podcaster?
Connection to me. So I'm so curious about so many things, and you just cannot get all the answers by yourself. The other day, I was talking to a friend, and she was talking about the noxious gases released by a lake in South Africa or around that way. And I ended up going on a side quest for several hours researching noxious lakes and how they impacted communities in the area. If I didn't have that person to talk to, and this was within the Finding Elara Group, if I didn't have that person to contact or speak to, I wouldn't have even thought of that for a world building aspect. There's just so many fascinating things you can't know by yourself. So for me, doing the podcast means building a community, finding people who have like minded interests, people who are considerate about their mindfulness while they're creating their art, and people that are serious about world building. It doesn't have to be world building for a novel. I do writing, but world building doesn't have to be for novels. It can be for movies. It can be for artwork. It can be for D&D, depending on what your creative path has directed you towards. It's about learning more about these things. It's about community, and it's about just opening my eyes to see what else is out there. And I find it endlessly fascinating. Have you found that in your interviews?
Yes, absolutely. One of the things I enjoy most is when I anticipate there'll be an answer of a type and I actually get a response that's totally different. I find that really good. I really enjoy that aspect of it for sure. So in your community building, how does that play out for people in your community?
We have regular interactions on the Facebook community group, and we have a Discord channel. So I don't know if you've heard of Kofi.com.
Yes, I have. So Kofi.com is a place where you can actually help to fund artists.
Correct. I have a Kofi.com for Finding Elara, and People who join the Ko-fi, they can either buy me a cup of tea, because tea is definitely superior to coffee. I was waiting for a response there, but okay, we'll carry on.
You're allowed to have tea, but I will not share it with you.
I have a cup of tea for $2, or you can join the Shadow Lair for $5 a month. So that $5 a month helps support paying for that Libsyn and paying for a little bit of the time that goes into, the audio editing for my friend that helps out. Yeah, it's just support, and to get that support from people, for the $5 a month, they get all the blooper reels from the episodes, and they get advanced information about who I'm interviewing for the show. They get priority questions. Any of the Shadow Lair questions go before any other questions. So I get a closer connection with my Shadow Lair people than anyone else, but they've become friends at this point. So my community within Facebook is fantastic, and we have daily questions there, and we always talk about completely random things that we can somehow associate with world building and mindfulness. And it's just interesting. Every day is interesting. Bushland Castle Productions is my niche publishing house. All of the names revolve around something to do with either the stories that I'm writing or castles. So we have the Bushland Squires, the Bushland Pages, we have the Shadow Lair. It's sort of a theme I'm going with. We'll see how long that lasts.
Good to have a theme because you can then do everything consistently because you know what it needs to align with.
I think so. Takes a bit of the stress out of choosing names.
Yes, and it's good for branding because things are consistent and people also understand what to expect as well. You must put in a lot of time, Diana, doing all these various elements. It must take over your life, does it?
It does feel that way sometimes. My family are very supportive, but my husband has set ground rules. And he says, because he works from 6 to 6, he leaves home just after 5. And he says, when he gets home at 6 o'clock, I'm not allowed to sit at my computer. So he set that boundary every evening. I need to get everything done before he gets home. And then when he's home, that's our time. The kids are really supportive as well. They just listen to me waffle on about it and nod their head. So I think that's support from, middle teenagers. I've got 3, 17, 19, 20. So the fact that they even listen to me talk, I think, is a blessing.
Absolutely. You never know how they're going to be at that sort of age, and they definitely at that point they're their own people, aren't they?
Yeah, I'm very proud of my kids. They've grown up into wonderful humans. Not that I'm biased or anything.
You're allowed to be biased with your family. What other elements actually have meaning? You talked about everything that you do being aligned with castles. Is there a reason behind that?
So, you know the Australian movie The Castle?
No, I've not seen it.
Oh my goodness. It's an Aussie classic. In this movie, the castle is their home. We call our home Castle Evans. So when I came to naming my niche publishing company with author support, I wanted to feel like it was a home for people. So I called it Bushland Castle Productions. So it's about a home, welcoming environment where people can come and share their creative ideas and development with us. That was the plan anyway. We're still very new, so give us some time to develop.
Sounds like what you're doing with the podcast ties in very nicely with that and the way you go about operating your podcast as well.
For sure. I think when you're a creative, everything sort of melds together in one way or another. It's hard to separate individual aspects. I'm really excited for the podcast actually because I'm finishing up very soon for the season, but I have a very exciting event coming up at the end of November.
The end of November. What are you doing at the end of November?
Well, you and I are doing the Indie Author Book Fair, which I'm super excited about. It's going to be a little harrowing, I think, but we've talked about it quite a bit and we've got a couple of more people coming in to help out. So theoretically, in my mind, it's going to run perfectly. Realistically, I think it's going to be challenging, interesting, diverting. Pick a word.
There will be a little bit to it. If all the technology works, it will be fantastic.
I think that's the cusp of it, isn't it? The technology. Paul actually pointed out that there may not be any internet where we're going, and we're looking at doing a live stream. So we're going to bring our own Starlink. There's 30 authors we'll be interviewing. We're going to, at the plan at this stage, is that I'll interview one, Paul will interview one, and then we'll continue hopping that way, all the way across for 30 authors. 7 minutes each author. It's going to be interesting.
Not sure how I'm going to keep to 7 minutes, Diana.
It's a live stream, so we'll have to have. I was trying to look for one of those big novelty timers, and then we can just plunk it on the table so you can see it end. Do you think that'll work?
Oh, it's something visual will probably help.
We get one of those countdown clocks and have an alarm go off at the end. Beep, 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 beep.
That'll do it. We've got one of them, a little one. It sounds like it's going to be fantastic. So there's the indie book authors show going on in Bunbury at the Stirling Street Arts Centre.
It's free entry, so people don't need to pay to go there, and they can meet a bunch of really exciting independent authors.
That's the whole idea, that there's a bundle of authors there that people can talk to. And what we're doing is live streaming that and ensuring that people who can't make it because they're geographically dispersed will be able to enjoy catching up with the authors as well.
It's going to be interesting. It's going to be an adventure.
Absolutely. It'd be great to see the questions because they have been sent a series of questions. Is that right?
Yeah, we send all the questions in advance so they can, just like what you do for this podcast, you send the questions in advance. I sent all the questions in advance so that they could think about them before we get there, and it shouldn't be as harrowing on the day for them. I think as the host, you're always trying to make your client feel as comfortable as possible. You want to make sure they've got all the information that they need so they know that, out of their comfort zone, and try and encourage them to express more than they would be just talking by themselves to themselves.
That's right. To enable people to get their message out, that's very important. It's quite a skill, actually.
It takes time to learn how to do it properly. I know back in the series 1 episodes, I was fantastic interviewing, of course, but there was opportunities for improvement, and I'm definitely not like radio level professional yet, but I'm getting there slowly but surely. Every conversation that I have, every time I'm doing the interviewing process, you get better, you learn, and you develop with the show, which I think is fantastic about this sort of platform. There's not a lot of areas in the technological space where you can just come in and learn and grow as you develop, because they want you to be perfect to start with, and practice makes progress. There is no perfection.
There's a lot to be said for authenticity as well. People want to see people in real life rather than being totally groomed within a moment of their life, so to speak.
And because podcasts are available for a significant amount of time afterwards, I want the content to be perennial. I don't want it to be just seasonal content, just good for this next 3 months or whatever. I want people to be able to go back and listen to it in a couple of years and enjoy that conversation. There is actually one guest, Ali McCormack. I've actually had her on the show 3 times. Pretty much every time she gets a new exciting book out, I call her up and see if she's interested in another interview. And every time I speak to her, it's a different conversation. You reveal different things every time. It's really exciting to get to know these people better every time.
It definitely is. I've had a couple of guests coming in to do repeat episodes, and that's definitely been interesting, and you do find out more for sure.
You just see a different side of them.
You do. We've heard a lot about what it means to Dianna that she's able to be a podcaster. We'll have a break now, and after the break, we'll have a look at how you do it. We've heard what it means to Dianna that she's able to be a podcaster. Now, let's have a look at how you do it. Dianna?
To start with, you've got to consider what it is you want to podcast about. If you're planning on doing an interview series, an informative series, if you want to do a mix of the two. Some people only do one subject and they stick to it throughout the whole series, like yours is about endeavour. You've got the same questions every interview and you're trying to look at different aspects people are reaching their goals. For me, it's writing and creative arts and mindfulness and well-being. But I've listened to quite a few shows that they are just doing one storyline, and then when that's finished, that's the season. Then the next time they come back, they do another storyline. When that's finished, that's the season. I personally chose interviews because I'm still learning and developing myself, and I want to learn from people who already developed and worked through some of their insecurities to get to where they are today. So if you want to do your own podcast, you've got to really sit down and brainstorm maybe 5 or 6 episodes. Think about what you want to talk about, who you want to talk to. You need to make sure you have a computer and headphones. If you don't use headphones, you're going to get feedback, and that's never interesting to listen to. It will make people turn it off. So make sure you get yourself a good microphone or good headphones with an inbuilt microphone. You can get some really good ones, especially the gaming headphones. They're pretty good. You can simply start recording on a program that's free, like Audacity. You don't have to pay for a subscription service when you're first starting out. You can just start doing your podcast on TikTok. I know a lot of people who have podcasts as a part of TikTok. You can do live streams on Facebook or any other social media platform generally. You just have to have some sort of plan for what you need to do now and what you want to do going forward. So if you're interested in doing a podcast, think about what your podcast will be about. So once you've established that, you need to make sure that you find someone to create a thumbnail for you. That's the 3000 by 3000 square that you need to put onto the RSS feed for people to download. I had mine professionally made to start with because I'm not very good at the artsy designy stuff. I know my limits. So I have since found someone to help me out with Canva, and every week we change the cover slightly and put a different person in the cover. So you can definitely create it yourself if you are creative like that. And then once you've recorded, you need to go in and do the editing. Like I was saying before, take out the ums and the ahs, and then the breath sounds. Then you upload it onto wherever you want to. It could be Libsyn, could be Podbean, could be Substack. There's so many options out there. There are heaps of podcasting courses available online. A lot of them are for free. Would definitely be worth listening to a couple of those, or just reading up a lot of articles online about it and go from there. That's the good start. Subject, record, promote.
Yes, that's a great simple way of putting it. And you go nowhere if you don't have a subject. So there's so much competition though in the podcasting space. How do you get through all of that?
I think it's luck. I think it heavily relies on luck. So I have built a little community. I'm not saying my numbers are in the thousands or anything, but my numbers are, in the hundreds, which is fantastic. The way people hear about podcasts nowadays is through a friend, or they stumble across an ad, or they see a Facebook post about it. When you're listening to podcasts yourself, do you tend to tell people, hey, this show's really cool, you should have a listen?
It's interesting when it's your own podcast, but I do also talk about other podcasts that I listen to. You pick out particular things about episodes that strike you, and you remember that, and you think might be of interest to the people that you're talking to your friends and people at your meetings. So you often end up talking about what you've heard on a podcast. It's quite amazing. And the other aspect of podcasts is that people who already listen to podcasts if they have more time, they're also looking for more podcasts. So finding them is often through other podcasts. So, like we're doing here, then your audience might hear about me and my audience might hear about you. So, there's that element as well.
Sharing and collaboration is definitely a significant element with trying to build your platform, for sure. The way I heard about your podcast was through a friend of mine. She contacted me and said, "Can I share my number with this guy?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." And then you sent me an email. So I wouldn't have heard of Forest Chat if it wasn't for that. But there is a really unique feature with Spotify. For people who do listen to this show on Spotify, you can share it directly onto your Instagram stories, which will also link to your Facebook if that's the way you've got it set up. So sometimes if I listen to a really snappy episode of something, I will just share that episode onto my stories and other people will see that. And most of the time they'll ask, "Oh, what did you like about this show?" And then you have a chance to really tell them about it.
It really comes down to word of mouth, and especially with an interview type podcast, if every guest shares it with their audience or the people that they know, because most of my guests don't have an audience. They're people I've met and found and talked to, and their thing is not actually having an audience, but they've got friends. So every time somebody tells somebody else about it, the reach of the podcast grows. That's how Forest.chat grows as well.
Well, the people that I've heard on your show, like the person who was cycling around the world, that is amazing. That's nothing I would have thought of without listening to your show. And a lot of the stuff about the rally people, I think that's
Yes.
quite interesting. There was the guy you interviewed and he was the person who sits next to the driver and he helps with all of the maps and stuff. I'm like, "Oh, that actually sounds a lot more intense than I thought it was."
It definitely is very intense. It's Bill Hayes. He's spent a lot of time in rallying and he does a very professional job. And he actually now runs the Cape to Cape mountain bike event, I believe, is one of his. There's been some fascinating people. I met Caroline, who's the lady who does the geocaching, after park run one Saturday morning, sitting in a park. A friend had organised a geocaching event, and we went along and sat in. And the interview came from meeting Caroline and her husband at that geocaching event. So we met them once and did the interview, and that interview was very, very well received actually by a good number of people. I mentioned about never knowing what geocaching was to begin with.
Another Caroline in your life.
Yes, there's been a few. My sister is a Carolyn.
Wow. It's a
So yeah,
theme. It's the Paul theme.
there is a theme there, yes.
I actually don't know what geocaching is, so I'm definitely gonna have to go listen to that episode.
Yeah, it's fascinating, and she explains it in a much better way than I can in a short time.
What number's that one?
Oh, I don't know the numbers. I have to go to the list of episodes and find it there. Geocaching is probably the easiest way to find it if you're looking through the episodes.
I'll do that. Have you got a favorite episode that you've done?
Oh, they're all like children. How could there be a favourite? I like that there's so much variety. My wife will be very surprised to hear that.
My favorite one is the most recent one. It's always the most recent one. Whatever the last one that I did, that's my favorite. I improved it in some way, shape, or form, so it is better than the last one. Every new one is an opportunity to grow and learn. I really enjoy that aspect of it. I've got a thing where I tend to you have to adjust the spacing between the words because there's a lot of pauses in natural conversation. So you want to shrink them down a bit for a podcast format. But I have a problem where I listen to podcasts at 1.3 normally, just because I like to listen to a lot of podcasts. So I don't want to listen to them at normal speed. When I'm editing my podcast, I have to remember that a lot of people don't like to listen to things faster than average. So I've got to make sure I stop, take a breath, and slow it down.
Yeah, my editing is all in real time. But if I'm like watching videos on Rumble or YouTube or whatever, then I'm often watching those at 1.75
Oh,
times,
wow.
but occasionally you have to slow it down in order to keep up. So you know which ones are edited to be a little faster because I can't keep up with them. I have to slow them down. It's very interesting. But there's a particular, or two particular ones that I follow. Two of them do lots of commenting around what's happening economically with China, and one also goes around the world, and the other one's into the issues with electric vehicles. And it's unusual, like it feels really sluggish, I think, when you open up the player and it's reset itself back to normal play speed, after an update or something like that. They start talking and you go, that's not how I recognize that person. I recognize them at 1.7 times speed.
I don't think I could do 1.7 speed for an actual one that I'm listening to. 1.3 I think's my max. I don't think I can go faster than that. But it can get hard if you're listening, because I work by myself a lot. I work from home and I'm by myself a lot. I listen to a lot of podcasts. So then when someone comes to visit and they're talking to you like a normal person, it just takes you a minute to recalibrate. So this is a normal conversation. This is the normal speed. So that's a modern technology issue, I think.
It is definitely. For me, it's about getting through a decent amount of content in a short time. So I have a few things that I want to follow, and I don't have a lot of time. It's normally done particular window of time in the day, and that's all that it is. So the rest of the day is normal.
Yes, got to be very smart with time management, and the only one that you need to be held accountable to is yourself when you're working from home.
So Diana, what's next for you?
Well, I have this very exciting summer book fair coming up, so I'm looking forward to that. And then after we've done the live stream for the Indie Author Book Fair, we're going to be doing mini-sodes. I'm not sure how exactly that's going to look at the moment. It could be one person interview and their bio and an excerpt from their book as the mini-sode, and that would be it. Or maybe we'll have two and then we'll put them out that way. It depends on how much, well, it depends on how clean I think the interviews are on the day, how well the microphones work, and if there's too much background noise. You can preface the interview and say, look, this was interviewed at a live event, and then I'm sure people will understand if there are a few glitches in the sound. After that, I have my season 3 coming up in January 2026. With my series, I have 15 interviews for the whole season, and I've already got 13 interviews lined up for next season. So I'm hoping during the break, if I have the time between all my other hats that I have to wear, I want to do all the content editing before the season even starts. And then it'll be a lot easier for me to actually put out all the episodes in a timely fashion. So we'll see if I can stick to that.
That's a great goal, having all of the episodes recorded and edited before you actually start delivering them. And then you have a nice defined program, everything is just set and away it goes. And it provides a good, consistent connection for your audience, which is fantastic.
So I interview my guests at random times when they're available because I like them to feel comfortable. So I want them to set the time. And then after I've edited the interview, you need to add the advertisement or sponsorship, and you need to add the in, I call it the in and out. So that's the intro and the outro. And if there's any middle sections that I want to put in there. If I can have all of the interviews actually pre-content edited, then all I have to do closer to the date is do the in and the out, and then I can upload. It's good to have plans,
It is, and to understand your workflow.
for sure.
Well, thank you very much, Diana, for being on Forest.chat. All Forest.chat listeners wish you the best for your future endeavours.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a really fun chat.
Thank you, Diana. You've been listening to Forest.chat, where we talk about individual endeavour in Western Australia, what it takes, what it means, and how you do it. I'm your host, Paul Vandermeer, and in today's episode, we're talking with Dianna Evans about being a podcaster. Remember, there are 4 ways to get involved with Forest.chat. Share the domain forest.chat with your friends and family and people you meet. When you sign up for the emails, you receive early notification of the episodes. Listen to the episodes at forest.chat/episodes. If you do something interesting or something that other people may find interesting, book an interview at forest.chat/interview. If you want to support a small business, book an advert at forest.chat/advert. I'm looking forward to joining you with our next guest. Until then, enjoy making it happen.